Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Extreme Studios in the Pinos Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I want to give a special shout out to a local representative that's making the news rounds today, and of course, to be the Little League World Series champions, Lake Mary team. So, RDV from the Great Midwest, you're joining me tonight as we cover something that's infinitely a hell of a lot more fun than anything called baseball. And that would, of course, be the movie Blade. In my opinion, still one of the best, if not the best.
Yeah.
Adult level type action films that represents comic books and or anything that's come out in the past 20, 25 years. From 1998 with Wesley Snipes, Kris Kristofferson, bunch of people in here. I think this is a tremendous film and haven't watched it in years. Got a lot to say about it. All positive. What's your initial take on this? Because I know on the Geeky Puppet Show you guys cover things. I have no idea if you've covered the comic book origins of this or not or what.
Well, we've actually read the actual first appearance of Blade over on the Geeky Puppet Show and stuff, but honestly, that's either near or there as far as this movie we've never really got developed into. Sure, like we're friends with E over on I Love Comics. We've done I've gone over there. I've had discussions with him. Whenever people bring up comic book movies, everyone always mentions Blade because Blade is what started it all. Some could say, well, there was ones before this, with I guess with Reb, whatever his name is, Reb Brown.
Mm-hmm.
The Captain America horrible movies, but no one gives a shit about those. Only the die-hard like nerds that like those, like Captain America, like those because nostalgia. He's fucking throwing a frisbee. This actually was a serious attempt after the Roger Corman Fantastic Four that was unreleased. This was like the first serious attempt at an actual comic book movie. I'd say for Marvel because DC already had Batman. They've also had Christopher Reeve. So this was like honestly, I would say this is the first serious attempt for Marvel to actually put something out. 1998, man, and you could tell by watching this movie. I love just watching no smartphones. Everybody's still using kind of like a payphone. The technology was kind of limited, but honestly, what made this movie so great is you had a fantastic actor playing the villain. Which I'm pissed that the guy didn't do much more else, as far as becoming a. I think he was Stephen Dorff was fantastic.
He is. He's very strong in here. The more I look at, the more I go. I realize that
playing Deacon Frost, the main bad guy, and then you have Wesley Snipes, who just coming off a few years ago, he did Demolition Man and literally. This is like a whole new level. We had Demolition, we had Simon Phillips, and now we have as Eric Brooks and Blade. It's just a fantastic movie. You got Don Lodge, the guy would go on to be in Gotham. He played Harvey Bullock.
Mm-hmm.
He's also but he's fantastic here too. Traci Lords was in here too as the girl that's leading the guy in the beginning, and this movie is just so hardcore when it comes to the vampires, killing the vampires, the deaths, the blood, the violence. Kris Kristofferson as Whistler is a fantastic add to this as well. Mm-hmm. The cast is really great. Now people are going to say like, well, the CGI wasn't that great. It was kind of dumb,
At the time, it was pretty good, even though it wasn't great.
I still watch it right now these days, and I still say it's pretty damn good. It fits the movie. It's a dark tone. This is New Line Cinema with Paramount Pictures that's doing this. And like I said, I love this. This is kind of the trend where we start getting the crazy credits at the end too.
Mm-hmm.
Where you get like the blood red, everything's in blood font. It was kind of it didn't really get that much. I mean, you saw other movies where movies were going as far as crazy end credits.
Yeah.
Escape from Alcatraz is another one, which we're reviewing later on after this. That also had crazy end credits, But most importantly, though, this is badass. This is Snipes proving that he is superior over anyone else who's gonna play Blade. I'm sorry, Mustafa, I believe, or whatever his name is, whatever these guys you want to replace him with. The guys are amateurs, and especially when you saw Deadpool and Wolverine. He hasn't missed a beat. He looks a little older, but he's still doing his own martial arts stunts.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with this movie too, as we dive into it, one of the things that really stands out. We've covered a lot of martial arts films in the past year, and we've done a lot of action films too, and we're still, have a big fondness for, as we say, we're an 80s based movie review channel here. One of the things is you look at the way this thing is shot. You get the crash zooms, like from the exploitation type shots in the 70s. I think this kind of reminds me of a lot like Hong Kong cinema too, with the stunt work that's involved in here with the shots.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. There's definitely some wire work, I think, in here with
Oh yeah,
kicks and punches. Okay, that's fine, but there's a rhythm and a tempo and a timing to it that whenever we come up with a movie, I always compare it to Blade because it stands out. It's got great sword fighting. It's got great punching. It's got some great demonstrations of different styles of fighting, particularly capoeira, or however it's pronounced, the African style that I think Wesley Snipes in. And Wesley himself, he's very fit. He's looks the part. He's very fluid in his motions, and it's a joy to watch him actually move on screen. And yes, there are some quick cuts for some of the stuff for terms of action scenes, but it's not there to disguise like something making contact or whatever. They show you that, and it's really cool because you can see if he's throwing an elbow strike or he's doing a punch or like that, or he's doing some sort of move or whatever like that. It's like a 1, 2, 3, boom, and you can see it kind of happening, and it kind of like builds to the one big thing where he kills a vampire or breaks an extremity or whatever. And some of the stuff that I still think is underrated is the whole rave electronic score sequence to this film here, because a lot of the fights seem like they're synchronized to it. And that's one thing we've talked about before, when as we go up the boss chain, as we like to say in these movies, and different things happen, it's really a pleasure to watch. It's just a lot of fun, and it's vampires, but it's done as an R-rated kind of serious sort of tone to it. And we find that from the opening credits, where we get really no music or anything. The opening gambit is this woman that's being admitted to an emergency room, that disgusting whitish bluish light that people like to use in these scenes, and she's very pregnant with a huge baby bump, and you hear the people giving her the code red treatment, basically. She's been bit by an animal or something like that, and she's pregnant and all that, and you hear a baby and all that, and of course that's Blade.
Yeah,
short, sweet, to the point. But here's the thing: it's a 2-hour film. I was wondering, since you're not the biggest fan of long films, how that felt for you.
Well, there's a difference between long films and actually long films, or films that feel long. This movie does not feel 2 hours. I watched it this morning and went by within an hour and a half. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
I did not feel like it was even 2 hours long. It did not feel like I was, like Deadpool Wolverine felt longer. Not because it was bad, it's just because it clearly was longer a little. Because it had, when you have lull points in the movies, and it can drag it out, but it's just straight up action. As I said, this was just pure, like, this is fun. We're gonna have fun doing this. We're not gonna put in the lame, stupid jokes. I think the only joke they put in here was basically at the end where he's fighting against Stephen Dorff. He's like, "And he mouths the what the fuck," and I always forget because I'm like, am I watching the right one? Am I watching a censored version that he didn't? I forget that he mouths it. He doesn't say it, but then he has his line. And I was always one motherfucker wants to skate uphill, trying to skate uphill, and I it's just, it was great. And then, like I said, him dealing with because they said at the beginning of this, he goes to the club scene there, and you're watching this one guy. He's being led in. He's like, Traci Lords, everybody knows who she is, former porn star, turned actress.
The reason why she was famous for the younger people, is the fact that when she went to film her scenes, and again, porn was a little bit different back then, where they would do stuff not like today. She was actually, I think, whatever the situation is, she was underage. And so once it got busted and all that, that became a thing, because here's this really beautiful blonde. She was underage. We got to go check her stuff out. When I say underage, I think like maybe 15, 16ish, whatever, rules and all that kind of stuff there too. So for her to pop up in a mainstream thing like that gave it some street cred, especially since her background was known as being an adult actress. You knew her in this opening blood rave sequence here is going to be adultish, and that's good casting.
Yeah, this is the guy who was in director Stephen Norrington, which I think he was actually the guy that she was luring him in, if I recall correctly, because I thought he was kind of looks like him, like his IMDb photo. Mm-hmm. But so honestly, that scene going in there, she's luring him in, first there, and like, he's like, and then they go through, and all of a sudden they're going through this meat factory, and all of a sudden you see these cows, right? And then all of a sudden he looks at, and you see a body goes past him in a bag with a blood picture. He's like, what the fuck was that? He's a bunch of bodies behind him, and she kisses him, and then he's like, okay, whatever. He goes in,
I'm down.
and she starts speaking Slavic to the guard, and then they let him in, and then they're like, okay, and then she wants nothing to do with him. She just shoves him like he's nothing. She goes, makes, and just hanging out with her little lesbian lover or friend.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, which turns out, which I guess today people say, oh, they're lesbians, but in this case, he starts hanging out with Stephen Dorff's girlfriend in the movie,
Yes.
vampire girlfriend.
Yes.
That's the difference between this movie and today's movie. If this movie would came out today, a lot of people are like, oh, look, another lesbian lover situation, because people are so quick to jump the gun with that crap, because it's in there. I will not deny. But I kept thinking, I was watching, it's like, man, I wonder what people would say today if they saw it. They'd be like, oh, I'm just sick of this crap. But no, yeah. So the scene in there, like he's getting kind of flipped around, and all of a sudden he gets like a drop, and he's like, what is this? And he's like, and he just puts his fingers to it, and he's like, and all of a sudden another one, and then the blood sprays out of there. I'm like, and then all of a sudden he's surrounded by vampires, and I'm thinking like, oh, is he gonna? I couldn't remember if he bites the dust or if he survives.
He survives.
Oh, have you seen this blood spraying everywhere?
Because as it's coming down and it's reaching a climax, and again, this is before the fight, right?
Yeah,
so you feel it building, the sounds coming, and you're watching. You're not listening to people talk, and again, it's demonstrate what's going on by action. So the blood stops, and they're all screaming. They're all getting ready to feed on all the poor SOBs that got lured into this, on the promise of sex and partying, basic instinct stuff, right? And they all drenched in blood, and he, starts crawling as he's getting punched and beat up and all that stuff. And he ends at the feet with that classic, I'm just going to go straight up from the bottom all the way to the top, and you see Blade, and then you have the big fight sequence here early on. This is when you knew you were in for something special, because it's, like it said there in chat, you go, okay, I don't know what kind of movie it's going to be. I know it's about vampires. I know it's got in there, but you see everything in here that you're going to see the rest of the movie. You see creative use of some of the weapons that he has, just some different styles, a couple liners, and the comic relief element that we have instead of being, kind of like a dopey sidekick or whatever in a martial arts film. You do get a dopey sidekick here with the one dude that's his handler.
Right hand, Donal,
Yeah, he's funny to me in here, because the running gag is that, and you don't really know it's funny till the end or whatever, and it pays off at the end, is that he keeps beating him up to send messages to Whistler, Blade's like, this time I thought I'd try fire, right, and all that, and he burns them, which it's funny because after this big action sequence,
he sent messages to Frost, not Whistler's, is Blade's friend.
Correct, and you're mentioning how there's some slow parts. What this movie does well is it builds you up. You have the fight sequence, it happens, but then there's this deliberate slowdown, right? So it gets really, really quiet, because the burned body of him after Blade eviscerates everybody
goes to ER. Yep.
And so this one dude and this chick who's a nurse, and this is of course a lady that we'd see plenty of in the movie. What I liked about here is there's no music, there's nothing going on in the background, there's no scoring to the scene. So intentionally, you're watching this, hearing him talk about how they've gone out a few times, and he kind of wants to get back to her. She's like, I just need a break, whatever kind of stuff. And you might say he's a simp, but I don't think he comes across that way. It's just adults late at night having a conversation over this buried body that comes to life.
Yeah.
And he looks fantastic. I love it.
And Bush, Wright is the actress.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen anything else after this, but she basically the guy. They both, he wants her to go see it. That she works with blood work stuff, and he wants to check out this blood interior, and she looks he's like the body's down there. She's like, is this basically thinks that he's using her basically because they used to date and wants to talk to her again, and they go down there. She look at the body and stuff, and he's about to cut it open. That's what Donal basically, he's alive still, because because all the other vampires, they turn to dust.
And we're learning that, right?
Oh my gosh! So they deliberately still appear because he knows that you're getting another little tiny jump scare, and well, her boyfriend, the Mortician, gets his throat ripped out, and you think that's the end of him? No, we'll see him later.
Exactly.
So then he attacks her when she runs out, and then all of a sudden she's laying there, the blood. She looks at it and she sees Blade standing in the hallway, and Blade just starts shooting at him. And then the cops after the Blade goes and rescues her because the other guy just jumps out the window.
Yep.
He runs because Blade had just cut his arm off.
Mm-hmm.
So he jumps out, and it's great because then you see Blade versus the cops, and then these little security cops, and they shoot him. And he's like, "Really?" Get the bounce.
I got his damn mind.
It's like, is you fucking not see the guy? He's like, you're shooting. I was like, and I love that. So then he picks her up, and then they still keep shooting at him. I'm like, he's got a hostage, you dumb. And then it all makes sense when Whistler and you hear Whistler because he go back to basically this old I don't know what part of the city is supposed to be in, but it's like in the docks or out the industrial part, the
That's
long
right.
warehouses
On the seedier side of town.
Oh my gosh, it's so great. But I love this how he drives through everything. There's a train tracks and all that stuff over there, and I just love this whole scenery here.
It fits.
He goes westward.
And let me ask you, I'm watching this, and you've watched all the movies that have come out for Marvel, DC, whatever, and I have not. When I watch this film, I do compare it to some of the exploitive movies that we've covered under here.
Well, you've seen Batman at least with Keaton, right?
Absolutely.
And you've seen the other one, so even if you haven't seen the NC movies, you can compare it to those.
It's true, but the thing is when I'm watching this, it's a movie. It's not a comic book. It's not a graphic novel. Yes, I know it started off as a comic book or whatever in the 70s and all that.
It's an action movie.
It is, but here's the thing. When I'm watching it, I still feel like the way they shot this, and you have these great set pieces and scenes, and then you have a little transition period like you do here where they have some exposition before they set you up for the next thing. It feels like I'm reading a comic book the way it's progressing storytelling wise, and I like that because here we find out a little bit more of the nuances of what his situation is, Whistler's and all that. We get the backfill. They basically, and what I loved about here is they treat everything adult like, and they don't make it sound stupid. There's no yelling and screaming. Whistler's like, "Hey, look, sorry, there's a war, us versus them, me and Blade and a few others, but they're everywhere. They're going to get you." And it's the adult, serious stuff of what would happen. Well, I'll just go to the cops. They own the cops. He's not mad or whatever like that. And he just says, "Hey, if you want to live, you just get out of town." And Blade's a little cynical too, but it's like, "Oops, you got caught in the crossfire. It sucks to be you. Here, I'll give you some vampire mace, and that's it." You're like, great. Okay, that's real.
But it was great though because he brings her the whole scenery. He drives her, he puts in the back of the car. After they jump out the window, though, the cops shooting at them.
Yep.
They go and then they get into his car. Yeah, like he drives her, and then I had that whole scene transition scene with him driving in the car. And I'm thinking like, oh, his car doesn't get destroyed. Just like remember Thomas Jane's Punisher? You've seen that where his car instantly goes to drive it. It's gone within the next 5 minutes. I hated that. This they actually kept the car and he drove it, and it's an American muscle car.
Yeah.
Because why would he not drive that? Anyway, yeah. So he goes with the Whistler. They have he has garlic. He just puts it into her throat, and then they basically they put her in this room. And then she kind of wanders out, wakes up, looks around, and goes sees him out there. Overhears him talking about this stuff, and he's like, and he needs a serum. And then and Whistler said like this is gonna last forever. You're gonna be able to get immunity to it and stuff. She comes out. They both basically she tries to run away, and I love this little scenes where it's like he moves around so silent where she's up against the fence, and then Blade just jumps behind, lands quietly behind her.
It's a simple shot, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's not CGI.
No.
Yeah, you got Thor, you got the Avengers, you got the X-Men, you got whoever, the sound out. All this friggin' CGI. Yeah, exactly. And it's effective.
Yeah, they edited the sound out. So basically when he lands. It's like he's But I love that, and just the little things showing that he is half vampire. At this point, we're like, I think they called him the Daywalker. So obviously, if you've never seen this movie and I'm not sure, you're going to find out that Blade's origin story. Yeah, you saw in the beginning, you saw this woman give birth, and that's about it. And the next view. So okay, then you find out, and then the Blade actually is a vampire, and he's been taking his serum. He actually goes and sees this guy. He jokes about it. You're a week early. And you don't know if this is a friend or if this might be his brother. They don't really ever say. But this guy goes to the shop, gives him concentrate new serum he's working on.
Yep.
to help tame Blade's vampire side, keep him from fully taking over his body, because he was born with a specific mutant. While his mom was basically bit, it changed him. I love that. So I love the whole explanation. She reveals that, hey, I work with this. I could probably cure myself. If people are bit, because it's just a disease. Where Blade is, he's been, it would kill, it possibly kill Blade if you took the serum, but instead she introduces them to something else. This is basically what caused the blood to rapidly explode. And I love this. This is a simple scene. He's like, look at the dish, and he looks at he looks at the little petri dish under the microscope, and also explodes his face.
Yeah, not the best CGI here, but
No,
again, it seems like
effects.
a small thing, but it's relevant for what's going to happen at the end.
Yeah. So she's told the whole story about this, everything, how he's Whistler found him in an alleyway. He was feeding on homeless people. Basically, when he hit puberty, that's when his vampirism kicked in, and he basically took him in and then raised him. And you can tell they have a special bond, like a father, even though Blade won't really admit it. But he's like, Whistler is his father in that sense.
Father figure, absolutely.
But he says he's just the guy. We have agreement. He makes my shit, and I use this shit to kill people, pretty much. But Deacon Frost, like Stephen Dorff, to this, I love this because he goes up to this vampire council, they're like a secret like corporation. They like, and they're basically like they're like basically realistically they're BlackRock. The vampires,
or they're an evil corporation. They own half of downtown, so this is their secret above ground layer.
They've been around for a while. It's like for 1,000 years by sticking to shadows. Where he's Deacon Frost says, no, they're cattle. Why are we just cowering at them? And he talks to the guy's head of the council. I forgot. I can't remember who it was. It's Udo Kier.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that's so great.
You remember him from Ace Ventura.
Well, I remember from Star Wars. I think he's actually from too.
He's in a lot of stuff. He's good.
Yeah, but Udo Kier, he's like, he looks down. He's like, well, Deacon, you're just, you're not a pureblood. You're just a mutt. You're like, you're nothing. You're nothing. Where I was born a vampire, you were turned like a whore, like a sexual disease, like a STD, basically that. And so basically, yeah, he was trying to convince them. Meanwhile, he goes on the archives. They've been trying to translate this. Basically, the capacities to bring forth the blood god, and basically, Deacon wants to walk in the sun, just like Blade. And I love how he gets around it by putting sunblock over his face and stuff. He's able to last a little bit out. And he goes and confronts Blade after he ciphers this up. He ends up killing the main guy, Udo Kier. They take him to the beach. And this is what's cool about this. If you watch From Dusk Till Dawn, the series, remember they had they always had the helmets on. They're blacked out, so they can their day. Same thing here. Mm-hmm. And maybe inspiration from this movie for that series, but so they take him on the beach and the beach, and he just he's like Deacon Frost says to him, he's like, see that. Was there one thing that you've never experienced, and that's the sun. I've seen the sun, and I wanted to feel the sun again on my face. It's like, so I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna let you see a sunrise for the first time in your life. They kind of just
yanks
leaves
his
him there
out because he's the man, right? I mean, it's a classic story, right? He's now ahead of the thing.
It's like the Lost Boys revolting. That's what it looked like. The beach, you got the sun coming up. And then when the guy finally he sits on fire, and you see him. This is where I say the CGI is great. People can say it's crap. No, when the guy starts, whoever set on fire, because he's a pureblood, he's different. He doesn't just go poof in the smoke like dust like the other ones. Right. He starts.
Cue smoke machine in the suit, because these guys all wear suits because they're cool.
Yeah, smoke machine, and then he starts deforming, and then you see the skeleton, and then he explodes, and then you actually see them get the knockback. They get knocked down on the beach.
Yeah.
So after this, he goes out there. Deacon goes to reach out to Blade, who basically was in the street, and he's at this little girl, and you hear it, and he all of a sudden his finger around this little girl's neck, and Blade approaches, the nail grows. This is a single nail grows. I love that scene. And he's like, and he offers him a spy, and he's like, and then so then Blade pretty much
You know the message Blade delivers here?
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
It's great because it's hard to say these lines and really sound convincing. And this is one thing with Snipes, because I saw an interview where he was talking about the voice and well, how do I make him sound? And then he just started talking and it came out and he's like, "You're nothing to me but another dead vampire." And I'm like, I'm grinning trying to say it, so it sounds stupid, right?
Yep.
But it's fun. And here's the thing about Wesley Snipes, like I said, the way he moves, he's athletic and all that. I think he really didn't treat this as a paycheck movie, like, oh shit, I got to play some comic book goofy ass thing with a bunch of CGI background. No, he's got great stuntmen working with him with all the vampires he's beaten up. Fantastic action, great choreography. He looks great in it. He's made to look good in it. Everybody else gets a chance to shine. Even the little girl that helps capture him here in a moment, right? And I think he's just having fun with the role. And again, from the opening scene, you're like, okay, where's this going to go? He doesn't seem uncomfortable in the role. I mean, with his outfit or anything like that. If I saw Wesley Snipes walking down the street here in Central Florida wearing that outfit, I'd be like, hey, what's up? Because it looks so natural on him. You know, not the cosplayers, you know, at a convention or anything.
No. And honestly, I think he likes the role just because as much as he likes Simon Phillips. It's a similar type of role. It's chaos. And he gets away with it. So yeah, I said with the girl, he ends up basically like, you know, Deacon Frost throws the girl a blade and blade shoots at Deacon Frost and he ends up fleeing and the girl gets tossed through I don't know how she was fine.
Because popcorn stands don't hurt anybody.
Was it a popcorn stand? I thought that was the booth for waiting for a car or the bus.
Might as well be the two panes of glass that are always crossing the street by miscellaneous workers in a chase movie.
Anyway,
or the stands of fruit. Or the empty cardboard boxes in the Hong Kong movies. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I like that. So he has her run and save her from the bus, runs, and then just tells her to run away. Goes back and finds out, you know, that Whistler is somebody paid a visit to Whistler. Whereas, you know, and the other girl has been kidnapped. So now he's like, and Whistler's like, and I couldn't remember if this was the movie where Whistler dies. I thought he died in the second one, but then I realized Whistler wasn't in the second one.
Are you sure?
Norman Reedus was in the second one.
I agree. Norman Reedus was in the second one. Are you sure he died in the first one?
I'm pretty sure.
Since I've seen the second.
I haven't seen a while since it's been a while since the second one, but I'm pretty sure. But Whistler. But anyway, he comes across it and he sees this tarp over like Whistler in the chair, and he sees the videotape that VHS. That's the list. VHS, play me. I missed VHS for that reason. Whenever someone wanted to see something, play this tape. Now it's like, you know, it's like push play on it's like what on the smartphone? Like no. So he basically pulls the tarp and we saw he was basically getting curb stopped before the Whistler was. So Blade doesn't. And Blade basically sees the whole thing, and then also the Whistler speaks. He's like Blade, come, you know. It's like, you know, it's like they took the girl and stuff, you know. It's like, you know, and he's like, give me your fucking gun. And then Blade's like, no. He's like, you're too pussy. He's like, you're too pussy to do it yourself. I'll do it myself. And so basically, Blade gives him his big old gun. I love this gun. It's a handgun, but they put a block of plastic on it, so it looks like the Judge Dredd gun, or a beefed up RoboCop gun. So I thought that was interesting.
It moves at a certain pace where this tempo of having an action sequence and a setup, and then a resolution where it's kind of quiet at the end. This doesn't change all through the movie, but very clearly it's got 3 acts because, you know, they find out this blood ritual is. You know, Blade is the key. They need his blood to do it in an overly elaborate setup at the end, which is a great set piece in itself. And at this point, we're well over an hour into the film, and you're like, okay, where is this kind of going? But you're like, shit, it's been a really long time. And you get like the, I forget the name of it, but they were popular at the time, the Japanese girl band yelling and screaming, that type of sub music or whatever like that, where all the guys were in there when he goes in there to break in and he gets captured because, you know, he's wanted alive. And so again, some nice little fight scenes in here and some kicks. It's just really, really good. You got the pages hanging there like they're trophies or whatever, because they're all these rich people with all the resources. They can't break this code of basically like the vampire thing. And this is where it's kind of hard to, it's not hard to follow, but it's a bit nebulous, as it were, because it's like, I gotta agree, you got all these friggin' resources and how the hell does, you know, Frost basically crack the code himself. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of silly in a way.
He's using technology at the time.
Yeah, I know that, but still, you've got gazillions of dollars and lots of people, and frankly, you can live hundreds of years. You figured to have the people that invented the damn thing crack the stupid code. And how was the history lost over years? If they'd kind of made a little more reference to something there and made it a little bit more plausible, okay, but still.
Well, it sounds to me like the people, the vampires, how many years, thousands of years are they older were? The newer ones were their pop. Uter Kier probably was the Deacon Frost for his time. You know, he killed the elders probably because remember, the only way you take over is you get rid of the other elders.
It's true.
And he probably wrote that off as a fairy tale. We don't know how old that prophecy was, remember? But so basically he wanted nothing to do with it, stuff. But he thought it was like a fairy tale, so they kept it archive, and Deacon was pretty much in there, and just like he says, like, well, no, this is because he was trying to decipher it because it's something cool, and he had nothing else to do. So he's listening to techno music in there while the computer is just analyzing the hieroglyphic stuff there, and I guess I want to say that Deacon probably was an archaeologist maybe in his past. Man, that's how you get bit or something, or whatever, because he discovered like their underground like Tower of Babel thing.
Yeah,
all the glyphs stuff, and he's like,
it's not clearly explained by even a throwaway sentence or two, but it makes you feel that way, right?
He makes a comment about how the elders are just basically, you guys are useless, pure bloods, whatever. It's like, you don't even know there's a fucking temple over there. It's like, it's like what the half breed does, and he basically, after he kills Kier, he came in and like, they're like, oh, they're like, where everybody's like the corporation, they're like, where is he? And he throws the teeth on the table and stuff. He's like, there's a new change in basically in who's relating this. And after he discovers that basically needs a Blade because a key, Blade ends up being attacked and stuff, and they hold the other girl hostage. And Blade basically goes in this basically Han Solo thing, like mold. Like they strap him in, and then they close, and there's a door closes on him. The blades cut his wrist, and then blood drains out into the floor. And it's really cool how it just all comes together, little lines, and it drains. If the only way you've seen Underworld, it's kind of the similar thing, or how the blood would just follow the little track and stuff. So I like this, and it basically the whole thing is that the blood is once it's going to drop onto the 12, the hieroglyphics where all the other big corporate alpha vampires are. You could call them the purebloods. Mm-hmm. And lightning strikes the temple, and they all get little arcs of electricity. And this is where people could say, well, this is kind of weird. But then again, I watch Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones had some crazy stuff too with supernatural. But yeah, he gets in the middle and Steven Dorff, and he basically gets the power of all their basically. This is the cool part. I love this first for the CG. Their skeletons, their vampire skeletons, crawl out of their mouths as they just basically their bodies burn up. Like
it's kind of almost disturbing, even though the CGI is not great, because it's a bit demonic the way that they fly out. Because I was going to throw this at you at the time watching this, with CGI being used very sparingly, but starting to get more and more in mainstream in movies, especially in the 90s. Mm-hmm. You really didn't know what to expect. So yeah, we definitely saw some work in here that was obviously choreographed, but whether it's the hidden wires and stuff. But for the scene here, there's that party that goes, what are they really leading up to? And so are we really going to see this blood god? Is it just going to be whatever? And it's not that we don't see him, because we definitely do. It's that everything happens up to the blood god, and you're like, okay, and you got a good 15-20 minutes of just nonstop action, and it's a boss fight sample, right? So Blade's incapacitated. The lady that he had saved that's been working on stuff's kind of with him. I'll mention that we find out, just as a nice little way to kind of tighten up the script a bit, is the fact that Frost apparently was the one that actually turned Blade's mom. Yes. And all that too, because he's got her basically kind of with him now, because she never really died.
Nope.
And so the whole thing of Blade being completely incapacitated, being reborn again by being allowed and given opportunity by the lady to nurse on him was tremendous. Mm-hmm. But we had saw her kick to the curb basically, and that's where she encounters Curtis again, who's definitely turned definitely a lot more menacing, and she makes her way out. Yeah. So she's not a useless, hapless
No,
sexual object as a woman. She's
no,
independent, strong, and there's a very cynical way for why she's working with him. She's like,
there is no
she's not.
sex scene in this movie at all.
Yeah, exactly. There's no interest at all. It's yeah, whatever. Sorry, here you go. We'll send you on your way, kind of thing, and that's it. And she's like, well, screw that. I'm gonna stick with you guys because it's my only chance of doing this. And it's like it works in a very mature adult way. And so I appreciate that. And it's kind of interesting too because you see her kind of mouth off to Frost there right before she's put down in the cell, where he makes a comment. She's like, well, no, you can be cured, especially if you're bitten. That's what happened to me. I'll just do it again. And then she starts like getting in his face a little bit because she's scared and all that, basically telling Frost, what's the matter, Frost? I see that scar. You can't be a purebred, right? So he's getting beat up by everybody because, hey, if you're not purebred, you're a scumbag, right? That's what's driving him. And so it's interesting to see her because it's a different way to present a woman that can do it rather than being part of the team. She's just kind of here by chance and works her way through it. And so she makes all her way from the bottom, and the way she's reborn too, she gets all the way to the top. The CGI, I will tell you, nobody knew what to expect because all the guys are being stationed and people are kind of holding to make sure they don't move. The blood from Wesley drains through, and it's a very quiet sequence, actually. It comes up to a drop. And this, I got to say about Stephen Dorff, when I'm watching, I'm like, this dude's a scrawny little runt. He's obviously beefed up a little bit since 20 plus years ago.
No, but he comes off cocky little son of a bitch.
He's believable, and he's not a weak link. He really owns his role. Because what happens is Blade's like, he gets there, and after he feasts and all that, yells, and I'm just thinking this is really great acting. We get the one music thing. He starts beating up some of the people, right? He starts working his way down. It gets more violent the second exchange. Then we get some other stuff with some kicks. We get some stuff with the sword.
It's a video game level.
It's exactly what it is. And at the end of each one with the music playing, you're just watching it, and it's got a nice little beat to it. And he's yelling Frost louder and louder until he gets to the end. And then right before we get to the big boss battle that we know is going to happen, we get the one moment of comedy relief where we can pause and take a breath before going, I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to see it.
He needs his sunglasses back.
He gets the dopey ass guy. I'm going to fuck you up, man. I got 2 new hands. Blah, 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 blah. Doesn't say a word, chops it off, and it's so iconic, and it just made everybody scream and holler with fun with it. The whole thing with the glasses flipping up in the air where he just reaches up, grabs it. It's tremendous. It's perfect.
It pays off because he's been like, this guy survived. He's like Pee Wee Herman's character, Paul Rubin, who kept surviving the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then finally gets killed. It's like you're kind of like, oh man, he finally dead. No.
Yeah, screw you. But then it's on. It's just him, and they can fight.
And the love about this is that he thought that Deacon Frost thinks that the blue stuff is Blade's serum. So but when Blade throws the sword up, get the serum, but it's caught in the building, and it of course, remember we kept telling you his sword pops open. We saw a vampire losing a hand, and
he fucked up, and we're all laughing and marking out about it.
Yeah. So the sword actually pops open again, and then it knocks the samples out. He grabs the samples, and he's like, oh, and at this point,
the way he catches it behind his back, and does that exaggerated stuff,
and I love
does that so well.
You also notice that they actually kept count of how many serums he actually had.
Yes.
Left, or stuff, or not serum, but stuff that basically makes the vampires go boom.
The stuff she created that we saw earlier.
Yeah. And he just basically he grabs it, he throws it all into Deacon Frost, and because he already fought Deacon Frost, was losing, cut him in half, and you saw the blood, pulling the and he's like, what the fuck?
Yep.
And then so after he throws the stuff in there, and then he gets the last one. He throws up, turns around, Roundhouse kicks it into Deacon's basically his forehead. You saw Deacon swell up and explode. And he's like, "There's some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill." Yeah, I love that little scene. It's like yippee-ki-yay, I love that little line. Gets. And honestly, this movie kind of ends with them kind of like just leaving. After this, you don't need anything else. The very last scene is that they're in somewhere in Russia. Scholars on there. There's a vampire with and we see the hieroglyphic on the door. That's where they have all their little feeding clubs, nightclubs. Mm-hmm. And this girl's about to get attacked by this vampire, and then all of a sudden, Blade just shows up, and just you see in the snow and everything. And I'm like, oh man, I want more. Just give me more of that. I want Blade in Russia. I want Blade in Europe, man. I want eventually get Blade versus what's supposed to be Dracula in the third movie, but I don't think it really was. But anyway, Gerard Butler, I think it was.
No, it was not Gerard Butler.
Oh, John Perrell. That's what I said. Don, right?
It's the guy from Prison Break.
Yeah, Dominic Perrell or something. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'll finish with this for my final thoughts. I think David Goyer, the writer, he's done a lot of stuff. He started off with Death Warrant, Kickboxer 2, Puppet Masters, Crow, Dark City. I mean, the guy had his chops in here. I think the way it visually looks is great. And this is kind of where I thought, okay, maybe with CGI, maybe with Wesley Snipes and some younger people, we'll kind of get a bit of a rebirth of the action franchise, because at this point in the late 90s, it's all but gone. We have more of the United States government funding a lot of crap, like Tom Clancy movies and just stuff to make the government look good, like with people that are intelligence officers and all that. And that's kind of cool, but it ain't no damn action movie, not like this, which is what we want. And I mistakenly really believe that with this movie and how awesome it was and how it was an adult level type film, that the rest of all these movies we heard that were getting ready to get made, of course, with the Star Wars trilogy and all that, it was going to be almost like a renaissance in movies where we're going to go back to having fun. And boy, was I wrong. Great movie. Everybody should watch it. I think it's just the action is second to none. We've done Jackie Chan. We've done Donnie Yen. We've done a lot of different people and different styles and types and older and newer men, women, you name it. This, to me, is right up there with all of them in terms of how good the level of action and the stunt work is in here. I mean, it really is fantastic. To me, this is still the ultimate template of what these kinds of movies should be. I just wish there was more of them. Why do you think everybody went ape shit in the Deadpool movie recently when they saw Snipes' Blade? Because that's what everybody associates it with him, because he's that damn good. And it put the rest, all the people saying that basically Wesley Snipes is too old to play Blade. No, he's not. Everybody doesn't care. Nobody's going to care. Nobody. And then he still said the line. He said, "Still, some motherfucker still trying to skate uphill." Yeah. So you brought up Goyer. I'll just real quickly on my final note. Goyer did the first version of the Suicide Squad with Will Smith, and then so then they redid it again. I forgot who it was, and the Goyer version of Suicide Squad is ultimately a lot better to me. It's less comedy and more action. Right. Where you saw the newer one, with John Cena as Peacemaker. That was just straight up. That's what it was. It was the guy who's doing it right now. What's his name? That everybody doesn't like, or he came over and did Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. They also did Dawn of the Dead. Oh yeah. Anyway, So so a lot of people, some people like they're separated. Where people like the Goyer run, and then people like the James Gunn new version with more comedy. I like the Goyer run because it reminded me of Blade a little bit. As far as not more watching this, so but yeah, this is a fun movie. There's some grotesque scenes here. There's over beast Pearl is the name of the vampire. Mm-hmm. That runs archives. Beware, computer nerds. This will savage you, just like that South Park episode. Where he's like Cartman's like super beast and stuff. No, that's what it reminded me of. Yeah, so there's the subway scene in here too. Fight, chasing there. I like that. I said everything in here. It was great. It is built like seedy undertone where basically the vampires own the cops. They're and like it was just great. I was like, oh man, they would have kept going and doing some other movies in a similar tone like this. It would have been fun. But they went with Spider-Man, and then they just tried to capitalize on that. And then they did 3 movies with Toby. And then the third one is a bomb because studio involvement. Wesley Snipes wanted originally, I guess, to do Black Panther, but he settled for Blade, and he is Blade. Yep. There's no other Blade. But that being said, though, we're gonna end it right here because we have to go live in about a minute or so. We're doing another movie. It's called Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood. Yes, a great film as well. We'll be hopping over there, guys. Thanks for watching, listening on Blade 2. We're gonna be hopping over onto that one. Check us out on that. Appreciate all the new people that have signed up recently and some of the comments that we've been getting. We had a great participation in one of our polls, over 100 votes. Tremendous outcome. That's pretty awesome, too. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys over on Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood from 1979. Good night now. All right. Later, guys.